What's up, Banter fam? Welcome back to the show. Today, I am presenting you a crypto market update. It's a weird time at the moment because we currently have Bitcoin ranging below resistance, and the question on everyone's lips is, what is going to happen next? What way is the move going to be? Will we get that big breakout, or will we get rejected because we are still struggling to break above this 29 to 30k region? Obviously, there is a lot to discuss in terms of Bitcoin and ETH. Because we recently did see a small rotation into Ethereum, but is this inherently bullish or is it inherently bearish for the market? I do have RunnerXBT coming on the show in roughly 5 minutes, and he will be giving his thoughts on the market as well. We had him on last month, and he gave some great insights into the market. A few of his calls actually turned out to be pretty on point, so I'm excited to hear from him again today and get some insight on the market, because I know a lot of people are confused out there. It's kind of been a weird week. We've been kind of just chopping sideways. But I'll give you a quick update on what I'm seeing on the charts, and then we'll get into Runner's thoughts as well, and he can give you an update. From a news perspective, there was, a few bits of news just to recap the really important stuff. We saw DogeCoin dropping in price after the Twitter logo was removed. So if you go onto Twitter now, you'll see it's still the Doge logo on my screen, but on my iPhone, it was back to the Twitter logo. Funny that it's still Doge on desktop for me. We also saw 𝗟𝗍𝗍𝗍 buying more Bitcoin. So typical 𝗟𝗍𝗍𝗍, he's now getting his average buy price down under the 30k level. What else did we see? We saw Binance Australia getting suspended for their derivatives license. So that is a little bit of a headwind, although there's not too many derivatives traders in the Australian Binance ecosystem. We saw GMX partner with Chainlink, and I think that's just about it from the news side. Pretty dry news day because everyone's kind of just waiting to see what this next crypto move is. We also had the DXY bouncing off support a little bit, but let's just get into the charts now to kind of contextualize where we currently sit. So for Bitcoin, my update is we're still kind of chopping below resistance here. If we go onto the weekly chart, we can see that we are into pretty significant resistance. This is the level that I'm looking at the 29 to 30k region. I'd say 30k, considering it was 2 yearly opens, is still that major level that Bitcoin needs to clear. If we go onto the yearly chart, we can see this is a very pivotal resistance and at times been a pivotal support for Bitcoin. So essentially, we are just still trying to make up a decision here for Bitcoin, whilst a little bit of capital has started to rotate into Ethereum ahead of the Shanghai upgrade or the 𝗕𝗆𝗄𝗧 upgrade next week. So if we go onto the ETH Bitcoin chart, we can see ETH Bitcoin did break above that pretty critical 6.5 level. It had an SR flip, so resistance into support flip to the upside, got rejected at the 677 level, which is now acting as short-term resistance. We saw a little bit of a pullback coinciding with a pullback in the ETH price, and this resulted in a few altcoins having a pump. I mean, the rotation didn't really land too heavily for a lot of altcoins. We had minor breakouts on a few of the L1s. Then we saw a bit of a rotation into like some LSD coins and some of the stuff that had strength. But by and large, it wasn't like a huge pump. It was mainly kind of like a Doge meme coin fueled pump. So I guess the question is, will we see a sustained alt rotation? Maybe, but we'll get Runner's thoughts on that later in the show. He's a big order flow narrative trader, and he'll have an opinion on that. For me, I'm still relatively sidelined in terms of buying new alts, and I'm kind of waiting for a bit of market direction personally. We have 𝗧𝗿𝗆𝗍𝗆 here commenting on the ETH BTC flip. He said, I haven't run the numbers on this yet, but anecdotally, anytime ETH BTC is up more than ETH outright, I get nervous for the market. Only when ETH is up, though, to the downside, I haven't seen signal. Another way of saying this, if ETH is up when Bitcoin is down, that's a warning sign. So I would agree with him in a way. We do want Bitcoin and ETH pumping together, because that shows liquidity is flowing into the market, new liquidity. If we go into Kyle's timeline, he did a good post to show us what Aavi's talking about here. This is the stablecoin inflows into the market. That is essentially the November market top in 2021. We saw tons of inflows entering the market in terms of new stablecoins. And now we've seen like a gradual bleed of new liquidity. So we haven't seen a bunch of new liquidity entering the market. So when you have ETH pumping and then Bitcoin dropping, what Aavi is alluding to is the fact that liquidity is simply rotating, and we're not seeing like fresh inflows like in the bull run where you get fresh inflows into Bitcoin and fresh inflows into ETH at once. that's a very strong market environment because more capital is being injected. Whereas now we're kind of seeing this game of just rotational capital flicking from narrative to narrative. And then obviously that means there are beneficiaries that pump when you get those rotations, and then there are coins that also dump or have pullbacks because they're being rotated out of. So that's what we're seeing with Bitcoin pulling back slightly and Ethereum gaining a little bit of dominance. We're seeing money flow from Bitcoin into ETH on a relatively small scale. Like ETH BTC pumped roughly 6.6% to the current level. ETH USD did have a breakout of its range high, but it looks like it's coming down to test. And over the past few days, since its test of diagonal support, it's up like roughly 10%. So fairly strong move for Ethereum. But once again, not in tandem with Bitcoin. Bitcoin actually has had a slight bleed since its second retest of the 29K level. The other observation I'm making about Bitcoin right now is, so there's typically a rule in crypto where if something tests resistance over and over and over again, that means resistance is more likely to break, and it's same as support. If something tests support over and over and over again, that typically means support is more likely to break. But for Bitcoin, this theory isn't holding true because we're not getting proper tests where we're actually showing a little bit of weakness into resistance. We're not getting huge volume kicking in. Actually, volume's dried up significantly over the last week. We're not seeing huge volume kick in to take us to this 29 to 30K level. So we're not actually testing. We're kind of just ranging below. And to me, that's not, it's not inherently bearish because ETH has been pumping. If ETH was dumping alongside Bitcoin, I'd be more worried. But it's also not inherently bullish because you can see on the volume chart below, we're having volume dry up. Seems like a lot of buyers are very tentative now, and there's not that strength to push up and test this 29 to 30K level, even though that's the clear level to break. And there's a lot of shorts and a lot of orders piling up in that region that will basically mean we're going to need a huge catalyst or some huge reason to pump in order to break that level. So that's, yeah, I would love to see Bitcoin test that level once or twice more and give us an indication that there is some interest to buy in this zone. But that's not what we're currently seeing, although we have short-term support at 27.7. And then obviously you've got your range high. This is something a lot of people are targeting at 25. And I would also say mid-range at 24s, a very strong support level. That's kind of what I would like to see hold if we did come down for bullish momentum to remain intact. Just another quick update on the DXY before we get into Runner, and we ask him some questions about the market. The DXY actually is on support right now. A lot of, I would call it FUD, but a lot of it's real in terms of de-dollarization. But I guess a lot of worry and panic about de-dollarization and a lot of the dollar's been sold off pretty aggressively over the past few weeks, and we have seen a drop. But that's also in tandem with rate cuts, right? If they're cutting rates, then typically the value of the dollar will come down, and then you'll see risk assets perform quite well. We don't know when we're going to get cuts though, so I don't know. We need to see what happens in the next FOMC, whether Jerome Powell continues to hike or whether we see a pause. But either way, the dollar looks like it wants to bounce here at support. Let's see if it holds. Obviously, if it starts tanking, that would be very good for crypto. That might be that next catalyst. And that might be triggered by something like a rate card or like revised expectations. And then maybe we see Bitcoin perform really strongly. And the same as the stock market, it'll perform really strongly if we get this breakdown. But this is critical support. We can see multiple times we've bounced off this level successfully. We bounced back in June 2022. Next time we tested in Jan 23, we got a bounce to the upside. And then we also tested in April as well. Funnily enough, the last bounce of the dollar actually coincided with a market pump because Bitcoin was performing on this like flight to safety narrative in the midst of the bank crisis. And that's really what drove it higher in late February, early March. So an uncharacteristic time for Bitcoin where we did see a slight decoupling. We're starting to see a recoupling of the correlation index for Bitcoin and the NASDAQ, and also an inverted obviously, it's inverted with the dollar index, but we are seeing recorrelation there. Not significant, but slight recorrelation with Bitcoin just acting on a higher beta. So it'll just move more when the dollar moves and when the NASDAQ moves. So that's basically what I'm seeing from the market now. I'll bring on Runner in just a few seconds. Just wanted to remind you, if you do want to trade on a DEX. There's a link to G-Trade in the description. Of course, they're a sponsor of the show. They have many trading pairs across. Oh, they've run into an issue. Great, thanks G-Trade. Come on, give me back. They've got a bunch of trading pairs amongst the forex markets. They've also got like many crypto trading pairs. They just launched Arbitrum as well. So yeah, if you want to trade on a DEX, and I don't know why this keeps refreshing, then you can do so on Gains. Hopefully it actually refreshes for you using the link in the description if you do want to trade. And I think that's it. Let's get Runner onto the show and get his views on the market. Runner, how are you?
Hey man, thanks for having me. How are you? I'm all good.
Thanks for joining, man. We had a good discussion about, I think, a month ago, and as I alluded to before, you were pretty spot on with your, was it LQTY call that basically like doubled since you mentioned it on the show. It was a great call.
Yeah, LQTY and TUSD were the narrative back then, and it played out quite well. So I guess I was lucky.
There's a few people in the comments saying, bullish. We've got a lot of bulls in the comments. I'm sure we have a lot of bears as well. How are you feeling about the market right now? It's kind of a weird moment we're in, huh?
Yeah, definitely. As you said, man, like currently Bitcoin is not doing much, right? We're chopping, especially if you can pull up like a daily chart on Bitcoin.
Do you have your charts, by the way? If you wanted to show anything, you could share your screen.
Perhaps later. Like if you look at this, then obviously I understand why people are getting frustrated, because obviously we have not done much in like last 3 weeks, right? So I guess it's nature of us traders, especially since beginning of the year, we had action nonstop, right? We would have action somewhere, so you could rotate your capital to new narrative, then to Bitcoin, back to ETH, back to altcoins. Always something to do, right? And last few days, it's been quite difficult, right? I guess we all agree. So it was not really a lot of stuff happening. I guess my biggest thing I'm watching, as you've also discussed, is ETH-BTC. Because if you can pull up the chart, yeah, like I've seen a lot of people say that we just tagged the resistance, basically the week of the level from like June, August area. Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And but also like a lot of people could call this like a rejection, right, from like resistance, which would be fair. But on the other hand, in a few days we have ETH Shanghai upgrade, which essentially, maybe you know even more about this, but allows people to unstake their ETH they had staked for, in some cases, for years. And I believe, if the data is still accurate, that most of the people basically who have staked ETH are underwater right now, right? So if the ETH unstakes and they sell it, they took a loss. So that's probably the only narrative I'm watching right now, honestly. Like the market is so like, I'm so uncertain about the current situation that I'm probably just gonna be watching, higher beta ETH plays, which for me are LSD coins. If somebody doesn't know what LSD stands for, it's liquid staking derivatives. So very simply, those are coins where basically services or dApps where you can stake your ETH. Pretty simple.
I think we're going to see, I've talked a fair bit about the LSD narrative. I think we will see, probably over an extended period of time, of course, significant inflows into liquid staking versus ETH staking. I think a lot of people are going to pull out their ETH from the ETH validators and restake in liquid staking. And then there's also the second order effect of people feeling maybe a bit more comfortable staking Ethereum now that there's like actual redemptions. So that might also be a catalyst, because the ETH staking ratio at like 13% is very low compared to, let's say, like Cardano, which is at 70%, and Solana. Like all these coins have much higher staking ratios. So ETH, like there's a bit of a gap there. And maybe that's also because there's just a lot of institutions that just hold ETH and don't stake it. But there is a bit of a gap. So I expect inflows into liquid staking, whether it becomes a buy the rumor, sell the news events, like the the real discussion though, right? Whether we see this ETH pullback. So I've marked the Shanghai line here. You see this vertical line, that's Shanghai. Then the last line I've marked is the merge. What we saw into the merge was, massive pump, then the merge, and then a huge dump. Shanghai kind of looking similar, like a massive pump. The question is, like, do we get that sell-off? How are you kind of seeing things heading into Shanghai?
Yeah, this is a very interesting point because, as you just said, right, not that many people are actually staking. So on one hand, if I'm someone with a lot of ETH, if I want to stake my ETH, coming in few days, I have like confirmation that I can actually unstake. I know it sounds kind of silly, but there have been people staking for more than 2 years, and they knew that the unstaking is coming, but they didn't know when, right? So there's like two sides of two camps right now. Some people saying, hey, there's 33 or whatever billion like US dollars of ETH hitting the market, right? People able to unstake and potentially sell. But at the same time, there's a lot of people saying, hey, this is bullish because, you can stake, get the yield, and then have a confirmation and be like safe that you can actually unstake, right? So personally, instead of like trying to pick a direction, I just very simply adjusted my personal watch list, which in my case right now is ETH BTC, and then the LSD coins that have Binance futures, which are Lido and Frax shares.
So let me just pull up Lido. And once again, if you want to show your charts at any point, feel free to put them up. So how are you seeing Lido right now? These are how my charts look. Yours might be a bit different.
Yeah, it doesn't look that horrible, right? Like simply from this chart perspective, if you open, let's say, I guess a lot of viewers are watching something like Solana, right? If you could for a second put a Solana chart just to have like a comparison from this perspective.
Yeah, so Sol USD doesn't really matter. New. Then I need to change it to.
Or you can just, instead of Lido, put for a sec.
It wants to put it in the percentage thing. I don't know how to change it.
It's a bit messy. Maybe let me actually share my screen. Share screen. Just let me know if you guys can see my screen, I guess, first and foremost.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So let me open Lido, right? On a daily chart, just like you're showing. So let's go for very like simple exercise, right? This thing has been trending since beginning of the year. I've marked up a yearly open, and you can see we've been holding this level. Let's make it very dirty from the beginning, right? We're in this some sort of always held these lows as support. And now let me make Solana. So you simply from like, like I guess the English would be direction of the chart. You see, as I'm flipping back and forth. Oh shit. I messed it up. But my point is that Lido is showing relative strength, relative to Solana right now. So I do believe it's not a coincidence because, as you mentioned before, I can quickly show the chart as well. But ETH BTC has been quite strong last few days. But a lot of people, and you as well, like mentioned that this is like a resistance, which we tapped, right? So I guess what I can like share very simply, if ETH BTC is going up, that's like your precursor or prerequisite for altcoins doing well, right? So if ETH BTC is going up, then higher beta altcoins are going to outperform ETH, right? So if ETH is outperforming Bitcoin, then Lido is going to outperform both ETH and Bitcoin. I hope my explanation makes sense right here.
Yeah. So what are you seeing next from Ethereum then? Because it's kind of difficult. It's tricky at the moment because we just got rejected on ETH BTC.
Yeah.
I guess, like, do you look at longing a Lido, or is it?
Yeah, personally, personally, my best case scenario is, let's say we get a pullback, some sort of pullback on Bitcoin, which a lot of bears have been waiting for like 3 weeks now. And if you look at on like, a lot of people go on like 1 minute chart. 1 second, this is really bad. Like on 5 minute chart, and they're like, oh my God, it's so over, right? Looking at this move.
Yeah.
But I guess my best advice would be, as cliche as it sounds, like zoom out, bro. You can go on a weekly chart. And like, I don't see the dip, not yet. Do you see one? Like we've been doing these like
Yeah.
tiny candles, right? So, but let's say if we get a dip on Bitcoin, I'm probably, depending on the date, right? Like I've marked this weekly high, which was a resistance here, resistance, and then we obviously went right through it. But if we get some sort of, if we get some sort of retest, then I'm gonna be looking to buy LSD coins. If obviously this dip happens before the Shanghai upgrade, right? That's like the second prerequisite in a way.
That's it. I mean, we only got 5 days till Shanghai, so it could.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
I'm praying for a dump. I'm praying for a dump so I can get some nice long entries on these coins, which in my personal like watch list it's Lido, Frax shares, and RPL. But
So
RPL does not have.
are you
Yeah.
hoping for a dump, or do you think there's like actually a decent percentage chance we get one?
That's a good question,
Purely
right?
hope.
Because tomorrow is a Friday and we have NFPs. If I'm gonna open this is a very good website. Highly recommend Forex Factory. It's completely free, and even though you might not be like macro guru expert in everything regarding macro, I can give a quick summary. Tomorrow is like a big day for macro, right? Especially
Yeah.
NFPs. So going into tomorrow, I'm just, waiting for the data. And if the data is bad, maybe we get a dip, opportunity to buy higher beta coins, which would be, as mentioned before, the LSD coins.
Are there any other high beta coins you're looking at, or just primarily LSDs and Shanghai at the moment?
It's a good question. Honestly, probably just LSD, simply from the fact that Arbitrum, for example, is one of the new coins, new shiny coins have been doing relatively poorly in the last few hours. And then obviously Doge, they just changed the profile picture back. So we've seen the reaction. Oh, wow. I hope
Yeah,
nobody watching got hurt on
it
this.
wasn't showing on my screen, but now it did. It just refreshed to back to the Twitter logo as well.
Oh, wow. Right. So like, maybe, sorry for jumping a little bit, right? But this whole pump, right? This whole move up on
Retrace.
Doge was all based on the Twitter changing the logo to the Doge, right? So now
Yep.
they change it back. So what else do people expect, right? Like, I don't know the answer. Obviously, I'm not a.
420.
Yeah, right. Maybe. Good point.
I don't know. 420. Elon will do some like Doge. Well, the rumor is he'll announce Doge payments on the 420. That's the rumor. I don't know. I don't know if he's that petty, but that's the rumor.
I mean, I was probably still looking to short it
Yeah.
because, unfortunately, let me actually talk about Doge a little bit. Like here on this chart, we are watching. This is when Elon purchased Twitter, right? So we have this massive run up. This is like, let me see, it's like almost 2x, right? Yeah, more than, like massive run up. But eventually, when the hype kind of died down, it almost fully retraced to this point, right? So that's just unfortunate reality with the Doge announcements from Elon, because it's not like this was the first one, not like this was the second one. It happened many, sorry for repeating myself, like many times in the past. And actually, I don't even have to go to Twitter, but I assume most of these wicks were Elon tweets, right? So I think it's in a way like kind of unfortunate for Doge community in a way, right? Because you have, they're doing something, right? I assume. And then you have Elon tweeting, so the price moves up, but then it's like very hard to actually like please the community,
Because
how
everyone just
to like
apes in at
deliver.
everyone apes in during those wicks. Like that's market psychology, right? So you get the most amount of buyers, the most velocity of buying happening at the top of those wicks. So a lot of people end up underwater like instantly or relatively close to instantly on Doge, and that does become a bit of a knock to the community because Like when people basically, their entire emotions are often driven by price.
Yeah. Especially when
So-
you're underwater, right? Like it
Mm.
affects you. I mean, if you look at Doge, right, very simply, how I look at these charts, obviously this chart does not look greatest, right? Like I guess somebody could call this some sort of accumulation and retest of previous breakout level. How I see it, most of these people, not most, all of these people, right, all the way to here are underwater. So there's basically a lot of people trying to exit their Doge. Ideally, we all know this, we all witness this. It might be not nice to admit it, but if this thing pops up to my break-even price, I'm gonna sell, right? So this market dynamic of altcoin that is down, let me actually measure it. It might be down like, I know very little people actually bought the actual top, but it's still down 90%, you know?
You know, it's
So
interesting because I know people that are actively longing Doge in this 420 anticipation. So I don't know if that's like a stupid play or what, but
I mean, if you're in crypto, I think that's by default a little stupid in a way, you know,
yeah.
instead of getting like a normal job. I don't think, I mean, we're all,
We're
even like,
idiots.
shout out to all the people watching, 800 of you, like, we're all a little special, like focusing on this stuff in our free time. But hey, here we are.
We're crazy.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think it's crazy to long it into the 420,
Mm,
but then again, it's 13 days away. And you know, in
yeah.
crypto, 13 days, that's like 11 months almost,
Yeah.
right? So if I'm personally betting on 420, I would wait a couple more days. Not a couple, like actually like, 10 more days, sort of,
So
and then hope
you
for
mentioned something
Elon.
interesting. You said like there's a weird market dynamic because the price has dumped so much, so a lot of people are underwater, and that's what happens with like the old coins. Does that mean like for the next big alt run, like maybe the new coins could perform better because they have
Hmm.
less of a headwind because they're not constricted by previous resistance. Let's say like an Arbitrum, for example. Like
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
I
gonna
know,
pull the
I know
chart.
that's fairly highly valued in terms of FDV, but how high can this thing go if we get a market run? Because like I guess it's not bound by the same. I guess it's bound by market cap constraints, but it's not bound by the same price constraints that maybe like you could argue a Doge is. Because not that. Then again, people did receive an airdrop, so a lot of people want to sell. So I
Yeah, I
guess there's
agree,
a hedge.
right? It's very easy basically. If you're simply looking at technical analysis, right? Anything above this specific chart, this specific wick, obviously this depends on which exchange you're trading or if you're trading on chain, but doesn't really matter where the price is. Anything above this red line is technically price discovery, right? Which
Hmm.
is usually for people like a bullish. So I agree, new charts with like no history are much better than if I, let's say, do, you know what, I'm sorry, XRP community, but like,
It looks okay. It doesn't look the worst
yeah, I agree, right? But
on the
it's
short
like,
term.
you know, like this, it doesn't look horrible.
No, it looks
If
yeah, it looks great. Yeah, let's just keep it
it,
like that for
you
the
just have to
XRP.
move the price to fit your bias, right?
Yep.
No,
Yep.
no, obviously I'm like
Changing
half
time frame.
joking, so I hope nobody gets upset with me. But the basically very basic premise is that on this chart, wow, 1 second, if it
Our
allows me to
community
go
hates
back.
XRP, don't worry. Most people.
Fair
We don't
enough.
have a
So,
very pro XRP community. Maybe some of you guys are in it.
but on the flip side, to be like fair, like with Arbitrum, where is the bottom? You know what I mean? Let's say it keeps dumping, right? Because they had some miscommunication with their proposals, a lot of stuff
Mm.
happening. So here you have, I guess, some sort of support. But what if you lose it? Where does it stop, right? So if you're looking to buy, this is based, I don't want to say gambling, but like at what price is the support? Like, is it here at 50 cents? That was the listing price. You know, these type of things I believe people should be taking into consideration.
I think for Arbitrum, I think it's just the main thing people are using as a reference point is just the FDV because it's like the only really thing. It's the only real thing we have to like justify its valuation. So yeah, you've got Arb at like 12, and then
Yeah,
let
yeah.
check like Optimism because that's probably
Hmm.
its closest competitor. So I assume that'll be similar. Yeah, that's kind of its flaw, right?
Mm.
That's kind of what I view Arbitrum's floor as. So if Optimism dumps, or Matic dumps, Matic's also kind of in, I think those three are like synonymous with like L2s. If Optimism hits a 5 mil market cap, then I would kind of mentally adjust Arbitrum's floor to like 50 cents. But that's kind of how I'm thinking of it, because we don't really have any price like indicators to like what the floor could be.
So you're thinking personally that Optimism would be your like barometer, like your benchmark layer 2 for other evaluations?
Yeah, absolutely. And they also had a big airdrop too, so they're in the same situation where they still have like people wanting to exit that receive free coins. I'll see if I can get up the stats. The thing is, Arbitrum is actually like a more popular network, in terms of
Yeah, right.
users.
Like with actual use of the network, I fully agree.
Yeah, so if I go into the
You
charts,
want me to go back to your screen?
no, because no, you can keep yours up because I can just flick.
Ah,
Can just
gotcha.
switch between
Sorry.
the two. It's funny because Optimism actually like pumped. We can see here on the transactions chart actually like increased significantly in daily transactions, whilst Arbitrum has had a slight pullback. But in general, Arbitrum's doing 1 mil a day. You've got Optimism doing 342 a day. So you could argue Arbitrum should be worth more.
Yeah.
Then again, Arbitrum doesn't have the Coinbase partnership and some of the other partnerships that Optimism has. So it's kind of
what I like to ask people when they ask me with Arbitrum, what is the fair valuation? I would ask them a very simple question, right? Name few dApps on Optimism. Can you name a few?
I mean, the only ones I can think of are the cross-chain ones. So like 𝗏𝗏 and Beefy. I don't know many Optimism specific dApps, like 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 maybe. I'll go into 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, but you're right. Like Arbitrum, I could name
Yeah,
a
exactly.
million.
And then the question
GMX,
is
GNS,
name
Topec,
a
Radiant.
dApp on Arbitrum, right? So simply from like management and marketing perspective, let's like completely forget market here. I believe people simply know a bit more about Arbitrum. And I'm not like Arbitrum maxi for the people watching. I'm not picking sides. I just try to be as objective as possible. Like if I ask people about Arbitrum, they usually know GMX, GNS, G-Trade, you know what I mean? Like they know Magic, they keep going. So I think that's like a very interesting like sentiment analysis in a way, how much people know about one and the other, basically.
You know why I think that's the case though? I think it's because since the Arbitrum airdrop was so popular, so many people, so many Twitter guys especially jumped on that trend. So we had a lot of shills for like Grail and these Arbitrum projects. Like obviously GMX is, well, that was kind of a market leader in its niche, so I understand that. But we had a lot of projects being kind of shilled on Arbitrum pretty heavily. So maybe the reason why we think Arbitrum is more well known is just because it was more it's more recent. It's kind of like recency bias. Like more people talk about it recently, so we think it's. But then we look at like Optimism and we see like they've still got pretty good cross-chain integrations. Like you've got Stargate, Beats deployed on Optimism, Synthetics obviously on Optimism and ETH, Velodrome. I still agree Arbitrum's stronger. Like I'm not disagreeing. I just think maybe a bit of like recency bias / like over the top shilling skewed the opinion. But then again, Arbitrum's TVL is still double, so still like the stronger network objectively. So yeah, and more active users. Now this is awesome, by the way. You can now see active users on DeFi Llama. Arbitrum's got 191k. Optimism has 80k. But then again, airdrop hunting. I'd be very interested to see once Arbitrum's airdrop cycle is over, and I say cycle because there's still incentives now. Let's say in 6 months, how this discrepancy evens out between the 3 or 4 big L2s.
Yeah, you're right. The recency bias is definitely a big one. Like I'm obviously not taking anything from Optimism. I know people working on it, so I know there's a very solid project and a very solid team.
Yeah, the base roll up as a service I think was pretty for Coinbase was a pretty big one. They are indirect beneficiaries of that, so I don't know. That could be a big catalyst. But for me, like overall, my real point there was just you've got kind of at least some sort of floor for Arbitrum. You could argue Arbitrum's worth more. Optimism though, price wise, I don't know if you do much charting, but doesn't look that good. In fact, it's been pretty much like a good one to short. Recently, it's been very nice to us for the shorters. I've had a few nice scalps on this. So I mean, we saw the kind of like lower high, maybe making another lower high. Kind of looks like a double top pattern. Doesn't look great, although we still haven't broken through these lows. If you want to draw in like your trend line, it would kind of look like that. We still haven't broken momentum, but doesn't look great, does it?
Yeah, right. Especially with Optimism, right? I remember very specifically because I was in hospital getting my surgery, and one day I wake up and my Twitter account like doubled, and I wonder why. And like you gave me a shout out on Twitter. So this specific date I like connected to events. It was Optimism announcing as you mentioned, the partnership with Base, launching like as like some sort of fork on Optimism, and what I've just said, right? So you can see it on the chart. Basically, the high, that was the day of the announcement. And the relative strength the few weeks before, I would speculate, was obviously this is just a theory, right? I don't have this confirmed that yes, like insiders pre-buying and selling the news. And if you see exactly where you have your red arrow, right? Look at the daily or like whatever the candles are after your first red arrow. Like it's actually crazy. It's like how many candles in a row going down? Right? You see that basically from like whatever $3 to like 1.8.
Oh, yeah.
No. Like a bit more to the right. Where was your first?
This?
Yeah. The sell off from this week to downside.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to everybody's watching imagination to make the case or make your theories that help you, as I like to say, to help you sleep at night. But to me, it was a bit suspicious, to say the least. But
Pump,
that's crypto.
announcement, dump. That's the playbook. That's the pretty much every big events or announcements playbook. Like the same thing happened with IMX. Remember when they were teasing this massive announcement with like Matic? I forgot it's Easter Friday. Happy Easter Friday. Friday for those in. Well, technically it's even for you, Runner, as well. I don't know if you celebrate Easter. Technically now, Easter Friday, it's a public holiday here actually. But even IMX had the exact same thing. Look at this. Like this pump was in the lead up to the big announcement, which was the Matic partnership, and then it was announced, and then same thing, like big sell off afterwards. It's this typical crypto buy, announce, dump cycle we see time and time again.
Buy the news, buy the rumor, sell the news situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's kind of well, that's why I'm thinking like ETH. Like I'm looking at Shanghai. Is it the same thing? The only difference with the Shanghai upgrade though is Shanghai is viewed by a lot of people as bearish. It's viewed as generally by the market. If you just took a retail person and they didn't analyze the maths, they would think, oh, Shanghai bearish, LSD is bullish. That's kind of what they would think. So maybe we don't see a huge Shanghai dump because it's not like an exciting announcement. Like, I don't know, maybe you have a different opinion, but it's not that exciting. Like, you can redeem ETH. Like, how's that?
I agree.
It's not like the merge, right? It's not exciting.
Like these narratives have to be like hot, like not hot for only like crypto geeks, like us being full-time crypto, but like to, as you said, like everybody watching, right? So if I have like attention of someone for a minute, how do I pitch them as like elevator pitch or like business idea pitch? How do I sell them ETH Shanghai upgrade? It's really not that exciting, as you just said. I agree.
Unless you're selling LSDs, that's the sell. So that's why if ETH strength, that's probably
like,
where we see.
The thing is, like the tokens or the actual LSD. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the tokens pump on the like general mind share that it's going to be a strong narrative, right? Because like Lido itself, it's no secret. It hasn't. Its tokenomics aren't great. Like not as good as Rocket Pool, for example. It's governance. So governance is like not that. I mean, unless you're getting like a direct cut of revenues, which they kind of do, but not. I don't know. It's not that strong.
I agree. There's really no need to like overcomplicate it. All the LSD tokens are pretty much like, I guess I hope I don't offend anybody, but like useless governance tokens. And what it essentially means, if you hold them, you can vote on governance forums, and that's it. So
Yeah, and maybe I guess the theory is like one day you'll be able to vote on like a huge like profit distribution, or you'll be able to stake them and earn crazy yield. But they're not driving off that. I mean, the more powerful a protocol is, I guess the more powerful a token is, because then it's up to the protocol to make use of that token. But it's kind of like it seems like a bit of a useless token scenario in many situations where, you have a token for the sake of it, and then the team really tries to give value to the token instead of the other way around, which is like the token has inherent value, and then like the project gets adoption. It's kind of the opposite, similar to Arbitrum actually. Like the latest DeFi governance debacle with the DAO vote for Arbitrum just proved like it didn't really need a token. And what was the point if it's not even truly decentralized? It was just kind of, I'm not saying it is a cash grab, because maybe they genuinely want to become decentralized, and I can't knock the team for trying to do that. That's like a noble thing to do. but I don't know. I'm skeptical, because they need to like provide ROI to their big backers that backed them with hundreds of millions of dollars in Series A, Series B. It just makes sense to launch a token, right? So a lot of the time, tokens are just ways for the team to like extract value, more so than like ways to actually add value to the project. This is like no secret in crypto. So like when it comes to LSDs, maybe a similar
Yep.
thing. It won't change the fact that I'll look to long them.
Yeah, same.
But Frax actually kind of looks bearish here. Looks like it's on a bit of like pretty significant resistance, if you like want to tighten this a bit.
Yeah, but what happens if it
It
can
did break out,
reclaim
though.
your blue box, right? It's probably yeah. I think the context is important for people watching. Like, if we get a good long entry, I don't personally plan to hold it like beyond the Shanghai upgrade, maximum like 1 or 2 days, if there's like announcements or whatever. But I'm not like I'm not treating this as like a long-term investment, basically.
Yeah. There might be that kick. There might be a kick-on effect maybe a couple of weeks after, but it's probably not like a 2-year hold or anything. In fact, I don't think, I'm going to do a tweet on this later, I don't think many altcoins are great long-term holds right now at these levels.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like the best advice would be to practice patience for now. And I know it can be challenging at times, but I believe it will pay out in this scenario.
Yeah, I'm in a similar camp. It's a very this is a tricky time to make very definitive decisions with large amounts of money. I think if you're trading with small amounts, like I'm still happy to do like small, like 0.1, 0.2% trades on like scalps, or a little bit of gambling, like plus EV gambling, but still like kind of gambling with smaller amounts. But any like big long-term decisions, I don't think personally this is the time to make them. Like I wouldn't be positioning myself for the next bull run like at today, because I just feel like there's just, I don't know, huge discrepancies in sentiment versus price, a lot of macro unknowns, and just enough general tentativeness in terms of both like volume and price action to make me like just want to sit and wait a little bit before like making any crazy decisions.
Yeah, right. This is like one of those situations where people regularly watching your content, right? Like your personal or also on Crypto Banter, they like we all get used to like nonstop action. And right now there's really not that much, right? So it can be like disheartening, or you can have this, you can have this sort of FOMO, like nothing really happened last few days. But I believe this like is a perfect opportunity for you to maybe not focus on chart so much, but more of like look for good entry on either side of the trade, and maybe in the meantime learn something new, focus on education. Like
Yeah.
there's no shame of like not being in a position, and I'm a big strong believer of having no position is also a position. And yeah.
No, that's good advice. I saw someone just said Bitcoin topped out, crashes just days away. So sorry, guys. All moon boys in denial, crashes soon. Renee wants to buy more. They've got sideline capital waiting to enter. I think there's a few. Laurie said, "Which way are we exploding?" Look, I think if I had to guess, if like you had a gun to my head and you said, Mars, like what in the next 2 weeks, what way is the market headed? If I had to guess, I would say down. I'm not confident enough to back that with my own money though, so that's how confident I am. But if I had to guess, I would say down. Would you share that like a similar view? Like if you were forced to guess?
Yeah, I mean, if like it really depends, right? It's like, what does your portfolio look like, right? Is it in stable coins? Is it in Bitcoin? Like me personally, I have it in Bitcoin, right? So right now I'm in coin marginized short. So if you go
Yep.
up, my collateral increases, but if you go down, I make money. But also, if this keeps chopping for another few weeks or months, I'm still collecting funding, because on coin marginized, it's almost always positive funding. So I'm getting basically paid to short. So if it's annualized data, actually, it's like almost 10% or around 10% a year from simply being short. So I'm personally just very cautious. I don't see a long entry yet, and I'm personally a little bit short.
What do you think of what 𝗓𝗏𝗍𝗍 said? He said, I think 2 days ago, yesterday, if Bitcoin doesn't break 29 to 29.5, like if it doesn't break its resistance now, over the next week, he expects like major downside. I'm paraphrasing, so I think he said like it needs to break within the next like 5 days. Do you think like he's right? Do you think it needs to break soon or it's over? Or do you think that's just kind of like
I just don't see why it has to be specifically in a short term. Just imagine if you go on like a daily chart, if you could pull it up on Bitcoin,
yeah.
right? So who's to say that this cannot go sideways for a few more weeks while everybody's losing their mind? So I don't personally subscribe to what you just said or this theory. And I mean, this structure is still bullish to me. Nothing, we have not lost a single level yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No, we haven't. But on Bitcoin, it's certainly not a time to like become bearish.
yeah, right.
Like there's no like reason to like freak out and become like super bearish. I think the word is cautious, not bearish.
Yeah, right. Like as we said in length, like you don't have to be in a position, right? If you bought spot Bitcoin for, let's say, like below 20,000, then you don't have to care, right? You can just relax. If your entry is 28,000, then maybe, yeah, maybe you should like manage the position, because you can be underwater real quick. So
I think it's just about finding like high beta ETH plays, because ETH, like that's where the strength is. Find the plays that can perform well, like you said, LSDs are one of them. If ETH continues to exhibit strength, because that's like where you're gonna probably get your gains. I don't know if Bitcoin. Well, I would like pretty much argue that like right now you're not gonna like squeeze much out of a long here on Bitcoin, whereas you may get that upside on some of the ETH related like alts if you're like desperate to long. But I wouldn't do it today. I'd wait
yeah,
and
I
see how
mean,
things
me
go.
neither.
But
Like maybe spend more time with your family, your friends. There's no shame in doing that.
Easter actually.
Yeah, right.
So
Like if you're celebrating a happy Easter, take some times off. It's no shame in that.
someone said they don't like the white charts. What do you think? You're a dark mode man, right?
Yeah, I prefer dark mode, especially when like during daylight. I like to see what I'm watching. I'm one of those people, that sit in like dark room all day long. I know it's like a meme, but
Same as me. Look at my room. It's all gray. Obviously, it's got like some lighting and stuff, but it's mostly gray and dark all day. But I like the light mode for some reason. I was dark for ages and then I switched to light mode and I
it's fine.
kind of
Maybe
dig.
have you tried taking a test if you're like a psychopath? I was joking, but I've heard this is like a running joke on Twitter. Then if you use like light mode on Twitter, TradingView, then maybe
I
you
do.
should.
I use it on Twitter. I use light everywhere. I don't know.
I have bad news for you, Miles. No,
I'm a psychopath or I have some mental problem.
no, I'm sure you're fine.
Well, I don't know. It's just reading text. You know what I think it is? I think like I read a lot of books as a kid, and like subconsciously, I'm better at and maybe this sounds weird. I'm better at comprehending black text on a white background. I feel like it's maybe from my book days, but I just feel like I can understand stuff better when it's black text. When it's white text, I don't know if this sounds weird, but I just don't. It doesn't resonate with me the same. I don't know if that's true or not, but I just
Yeah,
feel
I
like
feel you.
black text for me is easier to read.
I
So
just I
that's
just
why.
don't think that you should be ashamed for either way. You know, it's like very
No,
silly,
yeah,
silly
like
stuff.
why are people shaming me? Like, fuck off.
Yeah, Miles. Once, I hope you don't mind. I really need to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
get to restroom for
I'll
2 minutes. So I'll clock out for two
okay.
minutes.
I'll hold down the fort. I'll
Cheers.
um remind people to follow RunnerXBT in the description. He's got a great Twitter account. He posts a lot of alpha. People here are calling me a psychopath. Although one person said light mode is the best, so some people like it. Okay, some people do like light mode, but I think most people prefer dark. Anyway, we'll agree to disagree on that. Yeah, Runner's tweets are fantastic. He has a lot of alpha on his Twitter, so I would recommend following him. He posts a lot of order flow stuff. So if you don't know what order flow is, he basically looks at the order books, sees where liquidity is flowing. So he's very into order flow trading. That's how he gets his edge. So of course, like trading's all about finding your edge, right? So if you're interested in order flow and learning more about that, he's got lots of info there. And as well, he also has a YouTube. I've also linked it in the description. He does all sorts of content, mostly trading stuff. He's did a live trading session yesterday about the Shanghai upgrade, talked about pair trading, and then also talks about narratives of the week. So it gives it profit strategies, etc. So very smart guy. I'd love to have him on the shows more over the next, couple months. Maybe if we get him on once a month, something like that, to share his charts and his opinion. Someone's calling me on my phone in the background. So, quick survey on light versus dark. I mean, Pally, you can spin it up if you want to put a poll and see what people think. I think most people are going to say dark, though. I feel like I'll be the only one. But anyway, let's see. Maybe there'll be some people on the light mode team as well.
Sorry, I'm back. Apologies again.
Don't worry. I was just shilling your social medias.
Oh,
in
that's
the
very
meantime,
nice of you.
it was a good what's it called, ad break to shill the runner Twitter and YouTube.
And my excuse, it's 2 a.m. here in my country. Stayed up a bit late for this interview. So
no, you're very dedicated. I appreciate the last minute request. I know it's late for you, so sorry to pull you out of bed at 1 a.m.
Actually, like maybe like something I could actually talk about is like people watching are from all different types of time zones, right? So when you think about it, let's say for me, like I'm a European, so for me right now it's 2 a.m., which is really, let's think about it, like it's really not that late. But you'll figure out these patterns where a lot of action is taking place when you're sleeping, right? And I actually know a lot of friends who are from Europe also who live this sort of vampire lifestyle when they, they sleep during the mornings, but they are awake through the night. I don't recommend this lifestyle. I believe it's very difficult and not really sustainable long term for people. But for me myself, I try to sleep. I try to sleep around midnight, wake up around 7, and I just made peace with the fact that I miss trades and miss setups. We're all just human. You will always miss stuff, and it's part of the game. It's
Your time zone's better than mine. I miss everything because I'm in Australia, so I miss US Open a lot of the time, and that because I've been going to bed super early this week. I've been going to bed at like 9:30 because I've been waking up at 6. Just trying some like.
Wow, but you get used to it, right? Like I think that's like part of everything. I assume everybody watching is like first thing you do if you wake up, you open your trading view or whatever app you're using, and you're like, what happened during the night, last few hours. So
that's I have to get out of that habit. My habit right now is like as soon as my eyes open, it's like Twitter. I like easing into Twitter before the charts because it gives me sentiment first, and then trades/charts, and then like I get up, have a shower, have a coffee. So like I don't know. I feel like it's not very healthy to like the first thing you do every day is like check Twitter. I feel like it's not healthy. I feel like it's better just to get up and I don't know, but that's just us, I guess. That's just the crypto life.
I mean, it's like constant like search for the optimum, like something like what people call work-life balance. I think
Yeah.
it's like you can never really like find a perfect solution. It's like a non-stop search for it. So 2 a.m. for me, no problem, no problem.
So before we close up here and we let you finally get some sleep, is there any last thoughts you want to share with the audience?
Sure. Yeah, guys, like be patient. Just because the market doesn't give you that many signals at the moment doesn't mean it cannot happen tomorrow. I always like to say that I want to be in position to take a position, meaning if I'm like all in Bitcoin spot long at 28K and it dips, I do not have opportunity to buy more because I'm already underwater, I'm sweating, I don't have like the dry powder or whatever people say. So I guess if I can type it, always, sorry. I'm not sure if my English makes sense here, but yeah, always be ready for everything. And just because you don't have any
I don't
clear
like that
signals,
saying. It's good.
yeah, because like again, if you're all in here, right, in these high prices, whatever here, it doesn't matter the price, right? You don't have any more stable coins or Bitcoin to buy more anywhere else, right? Or any other altcoin or whatever. So always have some powder left. And yeah, I mean, practice patience, really. I know it's not the most exciting news I could be sharing, but it really pays dividends, especially in like a long run. So I guess that's it.
I'm too much in position. I've got too much cash. I don't know what to do with it. I've got the opposite problem. I'm just like, because I took a lot of profit recently as we like headed into Bitcoin resistance. So now I'm like, my fear is that we explode, to be honest, and I'm left behind. So I'm in the opposite. I'm in position, but I haven't taken the position. That's my personal situation.
So maybe you can tell us where is like the price, or like what would make you take more profit? Is there
Bro, I
like
need. So look, for me, like I need a more substantial pullback because we just haven't really gotten them. We've gotten these little pullbacks. I need like 24 to 25 or even 26.5 if we hold that level and look strong. I think like I'll get into some alts. I'm looking for that. Basically what I like to go heavy. Or I'm happy to miss out on, let's say, 10 to 15% upside, and then on like a proper reclamation of 30, then I'll look to like flip long.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how I'm playing it. But I also have some alts because I don't want to be completely left out. So obviously I've got long-term ETH, long-term Bitcoin. I've got some plays in like Arbitrum. I've got some like perp DEX plays. I've got some broader plays that I'll just hold. Like I think GMX, for example, is like a pretty decent play if the market goes down. Typically like volatility is good for something like a GMX. So like that's something I'll hold long-term. But yeah, right now, like generally, like medium to long term holdings, I've pretty much gotten out of a lot of stuff, and just waiting for some better entries. Slash, I've got some dry powder to open, like more significant trades when I think the time's right. I don't think now is that time though. But my long term BTC and ETH don't change. Like that, they're sitting there. I'm still gonna make money off that, but not trading that.
Yeah, I think it's awesome for people to like what you're saying, that you have like, you separate it into like long-term stuff that you really will not sweat about over like a daily candle, you know what I mean? Or like a
Yeah.
4-hour candle, and then your trading stack. I think that's very important for people to like think about their portfolio as it's like fluid, as if it's like liquid. So it's like, 50% of it, let's say, I'm just making this figure out, it's like you are not touching it, period, right? So you can completely forget about this 50%. And then the rest of your stack, then it like, you can look for lower time frame trades or setups.
Literally, I think the best way to do it is just come up with a percentage split and just write it down or put it on a Notion or something and just like split like long term shit you'll never sell. Then the medium basket, which is the stuff that you'll be willing to rotate in and out of, like, but that's slightly longer term, but you'll still be like more fluid with it. So have like rigid, fluid, and then like trading. Like split it up into 3 baskets, or you can do 5 baskets even. You could do like long term rigid, long term fluid, medium term rigid, medium term fluid, short term trading. So you could like split it up any way you want. But yeah, it's just like coming up with a system that works for you. For me, ETH Bitcoin, like I just want to stack and hold. Like one day I believe Bitcoin will be a 6-figure plus asset. I don't really care if I buy Bitcoin at 28 or 25 or 20 or 10 or 15 for that portfolio. Like I'm happy to buy like here, even higher, lower, like whatever for Bitcoin. And ETH I treat similarly with a bit more caution. I'd probably do the same thing for ETH though. Those two, happy to just stack. But you have to be very careful applying that mentality to altcoins. So I think what gets a lot of people wrecked is treating alts like Bitcoin and just like DCAing into alts all the time. Because the problem is you don't know what alts are going to be the strongest performers and gain adoption long term. And to hit the winners, you need to spread your portfolio so thin. I think it's very easy to wreck yourself because it becomes a situation where even if you pick the next big L1, you've had to invest in 20 other L1s to like pick the big one, and the other 19 have dropped or gone to zero, and then like you end up not even making any money. So for me with my altcoin bags, I'm really selective now with what I hold long term. I need to have super conviction in it as like a project I love to go long, to position myself like long term. Otherwise, just happy to trade strength. Like the market will give you a million opportunities to make money, a million opportunities to get into a hot narrative, a million opportunities to open a trade. I don't know if you need to like hold your NIA, Solana, Cardano, AVAX like for like the next 5 years to make money. In fact, I would argue the opposite. But that's just me. Like my opinion's changed over the last 2 years. I used to think when I was in crypto 2019, 2020, I was a big believer in that, and it paid off during the bull run. But I think 2022 was like a real wake-up call for a lot of us that, yeah, well, the strategy works great in a bull, but in a bear, it doesn't really work. So you kind of have to readjust things based on market conditions. And we don't know when the next bull run's going to be. Everyone thinks they can predict it, but the reality is we don't. It's just, you just have to play with the information the market's giving you. So
yeah, I fully agree. I fully agree. I know, one thing you see a lot with people, they have like altcoin or layer one or whatever the coin is, right? Doesn't matter, whatever narrative or basket it is, they like it a lot, right? So they become like emotionally invested. And it's very hard for these people, especially if they have like, let's say, a high percentage relative to their, let's say they put like more than 50% of their like crypto stack into one coin that they have a big belief in, and it's not really performing, but they will still like, keep adding, you become like this limbo. I believe it's like, as like, I don't know how to say it in English, but like you become like obsessed with this idea that this has to play out. And I believe it's really important for people, even though they might be a long-term believer in a project, sometimes, to let go, to sell, and maybe put the money elsewhere for the meantime, because their favorite coin might do well, but in a year. And that's like something like a classic concept of opportunity cost, right? When you're missing out on potential gains elsewhere while you're holding your favorite altcoin.
Yeah, I agree. It's just important, but for some people it doesn't work because some people just aren't cut out for trading. And if you're in that position, then like probably the better approach is just to like buy extreme fear, buy your favorite coins during times of extreme fear, and DCA during those periods and hold longer term. That's probably the best strategy for people that can't handle trading at all. Like the ones that just really can't handle the emotion and always sell at the wrong time. And then I would just like literally look for periods like this. It's what I did as well during FTX. Extreme fear, felt shit to buy, but like your rule is to buy here. Your rule is to buy like here. And you're not going to pick the bottoms, but you'd be averaging in during times of fear, maybe even this times of fear. And then eventually you'll get a decent average entry on your favorite projects. That's like the strategy, I think, for people that, really just can't handle the trading side and don't want to be fluid. Because, it's all about understanding your own temperament, right? So
yeah, that is right. If I can also give one advice, what helped me a lot is this is a journey, right? It takes time, it takes months, years. For everybody, it's different, right? Somebody might be watching who joined just this year. But if I can give one good advice, I believe is journal, right? Write down stuff. But don't write down like price of Bitcoin. What you want to be writing down is your emotions, right? So I believe good example for me personally, if I have a daily chart on the screen, March 9th, 10th, 11th, right? This was the local bottom, just under 20,000. And then we rallied to 28 or whatever, 29. I remember very clearly, and I also journaled it. When we were trading at 25, I had a level buy anything below 20K, right? I did buy, by the way. But like it was like my level, right? So it was my plan. If I move the chart right here, like this, when we're trading here, I said, oh my God, I wish we got 20K for me to buy again, right? So I got the level, I bought it, but I remember very clearly I felt very sick. Like I felt like almost like, oh my God, I don't want to be buying it. But I stick to the plan. And unironically, a lot of these cases, when you feel the worst or like you do not want to buy or sell, right? It's usually in hindsight the best places. So I highly recommend
Always.
highly recommend people do not even care about respectfully Miles or me or anybody else. Try to learn about yourself more. Try to learn how you react to these situations, because there is no one. I believe the biggest enemy in the markets is you, and it's just what I believe. And yeah, if you don't trust in yourself, then you will never buy these or sell these good levels.
I think that's a great note to end it on. I think that's all that really needs to be said. I think it's great advice.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think it's good. So thanks for joining. Of course, if you want to follow Runner, there's links in the description, as I mentioned before. And thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on so late, and hopefully we'll have you on the show sometime in the near future, bro.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining. So, just to wrap up quickly, just wanted to update you guys on what I talked about yesterday with OKX. I said, I wanted to get clarity over like who did the giveaway. Kyle actually did the giveaway. So on his show, I think 2 days ago for the Apple MacBook Pro, I'm giving away the city tickets and the Maldives holiday. So the $5,000 giveaway and the $7,500 giveaway is happening on my show. So that'll be on April 17th for the city tickets. So you've got 10 days to qualify for that. And then on the 1st of May, you've got the Maldives 750 giveaway, which is, obviously going to be 2 weeks after. And then, of course, the Tesla, the big $50,000 prize, will be happening after that, and that'll be on Rand's show. So that's the update for the OKX comp. Of course, if you haven't entered, there's a link in the description. There's tiers based on trading volume. The more raffle tickets you acquire, the more chance you have of winning a big prize. So the top level is 26 tickets to give you a higher chance of winning these prizes, as well as the Tesla. And then even if you just trade with $1, you still get an entry. So more than $1. So you could open $1.01 trade, and you'll get at least one ticket to enter into the draw. So of course, don't trade like, if you weren't already going to open a trade, don't like force a trade. Don't go crazy with leverage. Try and be reasonable. Once again, if you only want to do $1, just do the $1. If you're maybe more of an active trader, you could probably build up some decent volume and start qualifying for these higher levels. But it's completely up to you how to trade. But yeah, big prizes coming over the next couple of weeks. So link in the description to that. For the giveaway, you need to use the link to qualify because it needs to be a banter link to qualify for the giveaway. So those next two ones are happening on my show. Kyle did the MacBook Pro. So if you want to see if you won that, you can watch his show. I think it was 2 days ago or yesterday. And yeah, that's the update on that. We also have a link to gains in the description if you want to trade on a DEX. Just like picking out some last comments before I enter things. Someone said, you want my haircut? I think my haircut's terrible. I actually need a haircut. It's too long and it's floppy. So thanks for the envy, but I don't know if anyone wants my haircut right now. Someone said, awesome show. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Some really good insights and wisdom. Someone said, don't skip me like that. I didn't skip you. I added your comment. Thoughts on 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍? I don't have many thoughts fundamentally. I think it's solid. Price wise, I don't really. Let me just do super quick 10-second TA here. I think the stablecoin's interesting. The GHO, I just got the wrong one. The GHO stablecoin's interesting. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Could be a potential catalyst. Generally, we're kind of approaching resistance on 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍. So it might be one of those coins that performs because we saw 𝗕𝗆𝗃 perform. We saw 𝗏𝗍𝗽𝗫 perform. Might be one of those coins that perform if ETH holds strength. But you've got this trend here on the weekly, which is your resistance. So, break that. Maybe we're on. That's kind of what I'm looking at on 𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗍. Still kind of making lower highs in this pattern. Generally. Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And I will see you in... When's my next show? It's not a live stream. It is... it's a US dollar show tomorrow. It's a pre-record edit. So I'll see you in the edited show. And everyone else, have a lovely Easter weekend. Spend some time with your family. And don't eat too much chocolate. Peace out.